everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in to our podcast today. My name is Allie Hnasko, and I will be your host. I am very excited for this conversation today because today I have the privilege of speaking to the man in the Zoom box next to me, Mr. Eddie Kovel, the founder of Playout Fitness. Thank you for being here, Eddie.
My pleasure.
So, before we fully dive into your story and what Playout is all about, I'd like to ask a question that I personally think is very fun to help viewers get a sense of who you are right off the bat. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Alrighty. So, if there was a slogan for your life, what would it be?
Slogan for my life. I think I'd say to live each day to be the best man I can be.
That's very inspiring. I really like that. That's awesome. Awesome first answer. I'm sure our viewers appreciate that one. So, since we're here to talk about Playout and the business of Playout, I guess my first question would be, how did the idea for Playout come about?
So I grew up playing in the woods, running around with my friends, always wanting to find some new way to enjoy the freedom of the great outdoors and the freedom of my body and just getting to experience life in a really full and wholesome way. And so the woods and the outdoors were a big part of my childhood, and playing was always a big part, from sports to games to everything that kind of made my fast running mind work and connect to something exciting. So I grew up with that passion. In ninth grade, I started working out. And then when I went to college, one of the programs I decided to do, I was on a spiritual journey, learning to meditate and practice mindfulness. And I wanted to get deeper into that. So I took on an opportunity to study abroad in India on a trip where I would go get to meet the Dalai Lama and other spiritual masters in India. And my one question going into it was, well, I'm a big weightlifter at this point. I was playing sports in college, and I definitely wanted to be able to stay in great shape, but I had no idea how to stay in shape if I wasn't going to have access to a gym. And in India, I knew that that was not going to be the case. So I went to my local LA Fitness, and I asked one of the trainers there, how do I stay in shape without a gym? And he said, well, you could pick up some heavy rocks. And that sounded moderately interesting to me.
Right.
I did definitely pick up a few rocks when I was in India to try it out. And he also suggested I can do some other type of push-up to get my biceps bigger. But that was about it. I was completely at a loss for what I was going to be able to do to stay in shape. And I'd never been trained in how to exercise other than using the equipment that's in a gym. So fortunately, when I got to India, I found that one of the guys on my trip was a Kung Fu champion. He had studied Kung Fu under a master in Atlanta, Georgia, and had won championships in the Kung Fu, I don't know, circles. I'm not so familiar, but his name is Ryan Colesdorf, and he saw that I was like a maniac running around trying to exercise whenever I could. And he said, hey man, let me teach you some exercises. I remember the first thing he taught me was we were, I think I was outside like doing some exercises for my legs. And he said, hey, try this one. And he told me to go into this position called the horse stance. Actually, if you look at the deck of Playout, the yellow character right here is doing the horse stance. So that's Ryan showing me my first exercise. And basically it's a position where you just sit like you're sitting on a horse, except you don't have a horse under you. So you have to support yourself using your own weight or using your own strength. And he set a timer for 5 minutes, which didn't sound so bad. And then we did it, and I promised that was some of the hardest 5 minutes of my life. I wanted to give up every second of it. But I quickly saw that he knew so much about how to stay in shape without needing a gym, and especially regarding lower body exercises. I learned a whole kung fu warm-up routine from him that taught me how to strengthen my lower body. Then as we were traveling around India, we met a yoga instructor named Scott. Scott is represented by the character in the middle, the red character, and Scott is a yoga master. He taught me how to strengthen my core. He had a specific type of yoga called power yoga, which combined calisthenic core exercises with yoga moves. And so I started getting a strong core for the first time in my life. In a gym, when you're just focused on a lot of like bicep curls and bench press, you're not necessarily doing so much for your core because you're isolating muscle groups. But when you're doing bodyweight exercises, a lot of the times your core has to be engaged, even just to balance out while you're doing other exercises. So I started getting a strong core, learning about balance, learning about control of my body from Scott. And so that was the next step in the program. And then one of the most interesting guys that I met while I was in India was a Tibetan man named Lobsang, who when he was, I don't know, I think he said when he was just a few months old, he had a surgery done on one of his legs. There was something wrong with one of his legs and they did a surgery on it, and the surgery kind of malfunctioned, and he was left the rest of his life with a limp. Not just a limp, but his leg was basically just hanging around. It wasn't able to function properly. So whereas a lot of people, when they have a disability, they live a life of being disabled, he looked at it as an opportunity to improve every other aspect of his physical capabilities. And so he could do some of the most unbelievable yoga moves that I've ever seen. And this is Lobsang right here on the box, the blue character, doing a lotus position handstand, which I don't know how many other people I've ever seen be able to do what he could do.
That's hard.
Yeah, it's ridiculously hard. I can do it. Hopefully it doesn't scare anyone else away from playing the game just because they see that on the box. Like, I could never do that. I'm not playing this game. But that was Lobsang, and he taught me a lot about strengthening my upper body because that's what the part of his body that was the strongest. And basically these three masters of what they did each taught me how to strengthen my body using no equipment and not relying on a gym. And I realized that I was basically a walking gym, and I could exercise and get myself in the best shape of my life without relying on anything but my body. And so this newfound freedom inspired me to start exercising at every playground I found, and in between classes, or in between when we were waiting to get on the next bus to go to a different part of the country, I could exercise. I could exercise anywhere. I could exercise everywhere. And that freedom, that feeling of liberation was a feeling of fun and joy that I had in my fitness that I never had before while I was relying on gyms. So one day I was on a hike with some friends, and one of the ways that I love to kind of express my new freedom to exercise was I would go on these hikes where I would just kind of like let go and, just whatever looked fun, whatever looked like an obstacle or something that I could climb on or something that I could jump on, I would go for it because, I was free to play wherever I was. And one of these hikes had these beautiful rocks, and we were hiking and jumping rock to rock. And I turned to one of my friends and I said, "Hey man, why do I need to work out if I can just play out?" And that idea, we spoke later that night, and he said, "Hey man, I think you're really onto something with that. That's a philosophy I think the world would really benefit from." Mm-hmm. So I took that as a starting point and wrote down some ideas about what it would be like to have a philosophy of play with regard to exercise as opposed to a philosophy of work. The words we use are very important, and if people are looking at exercise as a workout, then they're going to also look at it like they look at work, which is something they have to do as opposed to
Right.
something they get to do. So my goal was, let me see if I can change people's perspectives on exercise, make it into something people get to do as opposed to something people have to do. And if I can do that through the power of play, I think I can really change people's views on working out and possibly change their motivation and make it so exercise becomes something fun and joyous and free, as opposed to something that is rigorous and intense and confining. Um, and so I was sitting in one of my entrepreneurship classes a couple of years later, back at Emory University in Atlanta, and the teacher was talking about core competencies, which are what makes a company unique. What does this company do that no other company can do? And I thought about myself. So one thing I haven't mentioned is that I'm a really big geek. I love card games, board games, and video games. I don't play them anymore. But throughout my life, these were a huge factor in just in terms of how I play and interact with my friends. And so I had this one side of me that's geeky and loves games, and then I had this other side of me that is fitness obsessed, basically. And I said, why don't I take the two things that make me unique, this passion for games and my love of fitness and this knowledge that I have of body weight only exercises, and combine them to create Play Out the Game. So that was the inspiration for the first fitness card game, and that was the start of the business.
Great. Wow. Just truly incredible how that that lack of you were lacking something, you were lacking that that ability to work out, and you took it upon yourself to say, wait a minute, no, I don't have to say, oh, poor me, I can't work out now that I'm studying abroad. You made something of it, and now millions of people get to enjoy what you've made, and I just think that's truly incredible. So now that you have this business and you are an entrepreneur, um, what motivates you to keep going? What about your product motivates you to keep getting better, keep working out, or keep reaching those people and inspiring people the way that those mentors have inspired you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two questions contained. First off, there is the kind of personal, like what drives me. And then there's also within the business, why do I think that this product and this philosophy is something that the world needs to to receive
Right.
and to make part of their own lives. So for the first question, as I answered in my slogan, I am um, I think, I don't know if obsessed is the right word, but I'm passionate about personal growth and personal development, always trying to find ways to improve the way that I spend my time, improve the way that I treat other people, improve the way that I connect to things greater than myself, my higher power, and the various institutions and people who have been such a great influence in my life, and doing what I can to, you know, make the most of the opportunities that I believe that God has given me. Um, so that's number one. Just kind of a passion of always wanting to just to look for success and to strive to work hard and push past the obstacles and the challenges that come. As far as my game and play out as a philosophy and as something that I want to share with the world, I think that there are still so many people who are struggling to motivate themselves to exercise. And I think this is a great way to break down those barriers that stop the average person from having the health that they want to have. I think every person wants to be healthy and would love to spend part of their day exercising and moving and feeling like a kid again. We would all love that. And I think that this game allows people that access in the most simple, easy, and fun way. So that's something that I believe is important for me to share with the world. I think it's something that I have as a gift and a passion that, you know, is unique to me. Everyone has their thing that they want to bring out in the world. This is at least one of mine, and I think there's still quite a bit of work to be done as far as changing people's attitudes towards exercise, health, and fitness.
I definitely agree. So, because you have this platform to share what you love and fitness with the world through this business, I know that you have gone to many schools and gave decks to physical education teachers, and I'm sure that you've experienced the joy that children get when they, exercise, or when you give a deck to your friends and see them play with it. Can you talk about a moment where you really connected with someone, whether it be a student or a friend, through Playout, and seen Playout positively affect them or change their relationship with fitness?
Sure. I mean, I've been operating the business since 2013, and I was playing with a deck of multicolored flashcards that I'd written the game down on back in 2012. So I've seen a lot of people who get a big smile on their face when they're exercising because they're using these cards. I'll just give a couple anecdotes that I feel like kind of embody what Playout does that make it so unique. The first school that we ever got hired to do a presentation for, which meant that we went in, the PE program bought decks for, I don't know, every 2 or 3 students in their class, so kids could play in small groups and really have the opportunity to create their own fitness routines. One thing that I think continues to be one of the most amazing features of the deck is that once you've learned the exercises, you become your own personal trainer. It's no longer me in the front of the classroom. Okay, now we're going to do push-ups. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. No, it's you pick the card. You can choose upper, you can choose lower, you can choose core. Recently, you've added stretches, cardio, partner exercises, so lots of cool stuff to choose from. And then that exercise that you get, you choose also do I want to do the easy, the medium, the hard. So what that allows is that when you're in a group of, you know, up to 100 kids or more, or not even kids, 100 adults, whoever it is, every person's choosing their own level, challenging themselves in their own way. And I think the story that best embodies it is when we were out at this school, um, there was this one girl in the class who their teachers had told me about before their class came. I was going through grade by grade, all the first graders, all the second graders. So actually, this was a middle school, so 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So I think she was a 7th grader, and and she was overweight and was habitually not interested in whatever the PE class had to, because it's much easier, I imagine, to pretend you're not interested than to deal with the embarrassment of not being able to keep up with the other students. So after I taught the exercises to the class, I noticed that she didn't have a partner for one of the games that we were playing. So I pulled her aside and I said, "Hey, can I be your partner?" And she kind of grumbled and said, "Okay." And I and then we started playing the game, and she chose the first exercise. I said, "Listen, you choose the exercises and you choose the level, and I'll do it with you." And so for the first couple exercises, she was choosing kind of, going through the motions of choosing the exercise and doing the easier reps. And then, maybe by exercise 3 or 4, there was actually a bit of like I could see that she was like, "Hey, can we do the medium?" And and she started to feel that she had actual ability. Unlike playing sports where you need a skill set in order to or in order to compete and be successful in a sport, with fitness, it's just a matter of doing reps and being able to push past a little bit of pain that your body experiences. And also, no one's looking over your shoulder. It's not like, everyone's doing this at one exercise, but it's that everyone's doing exercises at their own pace. So we made it through, I think we got close to 100 points together. Maybe it was less, maybe it was 70. But but that was amazing for the 3 to 5 minutes that we played. The fact that she was able to create her own fitness routine and actually get a lot of joy from that experience, I think was something that was unique to her experience with physical education, and something that I hope that she was able to take with her going forward, to see that she was empowered and she could push herself to exercise and be healthy just like everyone else. One other small example, I mean, I've seen the look of fun and joy, and someone who, you know, had never really done exercises before, all of a sudden, you know, they're doing like hundreds of push-ups, and you're just like, what is going on? This is crazy. And I definitely see that as something unique. But yeah, I guess you know, something that one of our team members, Michael Havkins, he and I met in England when I had invited some of the guys on a trip that I was a part of, to, hey, do you guys want to play this card game? It's an exercise game. And there were a few guys, you know, you could tell like these guys
Right.
real buff, and I could tell they'd be into it. So I invited them to play a game. I told them the rules. And so not only was it those 3 or 4 guys that I'd originally invited to play this game, but also crowding around us were there were a few teachers on the trip, and their children were on the trip. Girls from the age of, I don't know, let's say 7 to 13. And
Wow.
they all joined in with us and started doing the exercises along with us. So we had, you know, and then other people on the trip started joining in too. So we probably had like 10 to 12 people just gathered around these cards doing the same exercises together, the buff gym rats along with the little kids, and just one common experience of, let's do some exercise, let's move our bodies. And just 2 very, you know, candid small examples of how I think this game is unique and what makes it special.
That's great. You know, that's what I particularly love about Playout is that personalized experience and its way of bringing people, as well as the personalized experience, it brings people together. And that's something that I wish I had in elementary school or middle school or high school even. Um, I am a theater and English major in college. I'm not coordinated like everyone else, and seemingly that I encountered in grade school. And that story of that girl that you told really resonated with me because I was that girl. And you know, if I had something like that when I was growing up, I think it would have been really helpful in building my relationship with fitness. So I'm glad that this next generation, or since the early 2010s, they've had something like that to inspire them, and I just think that's great. So speaking of success, we've just talked about some success stories. What has been, do you think, particularly successful so far? And how do you plan to ensure that Playout has a successful future moving forward?
Okay, so Playout has seen the most success with physical education teachers and their students. In physical education, teachers are constantly looking for ways to get their students moving and to keep them occupied, especially keep them occupied in ways where the students have something they call challenge by choice, where every student gets to kind of create his or her own experience as he or she is playing, so that, you know, the people on the highest level in the class can still have fun, and the people on the lowest level in the class can still have fun. So Playout kind of fills so many needs for PE teachers. They're always looking for quick, fast activities that they can throw in if they have 5 minutes here or there, use as a warm-up consistently, use as a fitness challenge here and there, improve their kids' testing scores, right? We all remember taking the
Mhm.
presidential fitness test when we were growing up. So, you know, I imagine I would have been able to score higher if I were doing push-ups every day as a kid. And I used to hate, by the way, when I remember on my soccer team, I used to hate like they would have us do like 6 inches and stuff. Oh, I hated it. But that's because it wasn't a game. It wasn't a competition. It was just like, oh,
Right.
by the way, like take a break from playing soccer, which you actually enjoy, and do these really hard, painful workouts. Like, ugh, terrible. So PE teachers, I think, really benefit greatly from play out. Um, that's an area where we've seen a lot of success. We've been able to go out and present to over 20 school districts around the country, which was a big focus of ours back in 2016. We've also seen success with kind of the fitness fanatic crew who participate in obstacle course races. So when I first launched Playout, I thought I met someone who told me, hey, I think a really great place for you to go to sell these cards is something called an obstacle course race. I'd never heard of it before. Some people call it a mud run. There's lots of different ones around the country. So he told me about this one that was happening locally near me in Georgia. And I signed up for the race, and I had a booth, and it was my first place where I went out and just sold a few decks. And, I think we sold 19 decks that first weekend. Not enough to pay the bills, but enough to say, hey, people actually like this. This is something really cool. And that was the first time we'd ever went out to sell the products. I also ended up winning that race. And I had been training only using the Playout Fitness cards. So that proved to me that, I'm running circles around these CrossFit hunks who are, like who have muscles on their ears. And I've been doing this fitness card game, and I'm in many ways better shape than them. I'm sure they could lift more weight than me, but at least as far as running an obstacle course, which I think is something representative of kind of a very, very balanced full body fitness, I had the upper hand. So that was a great first experience. And I actually met someone at that race who took me under her wing. Her name's Allie Hnasko. She is a pro obstacle course racer and one of Spartan Race's top trainers, goes around the country training people in the Spartan workout programs, et cetera, et cetera. She does a lot of things. And she took me under her wing, got me a job actually working for Spartan Race. I got very involved in the obstacle course racing scene after performing absolutely horribly on a 13-mile race that I hadn't trained for, and cramping up and having to walk dazedly the last 2 or 3 miles.
Oh
I
no.
I I came back and actually put in some real training, and ended up in 2014, which was the main year that I raced, placing top 5 in 12 out of the 14 races that I raced in. That race being one of the 2 out of the 14 that I did not place top 5 in. Um, and that sport has a lot of people who are very fitness minded, especially people who have kids, who are moms, single moms, sometimes stay-at-home moms, kind of like the weekend warrior, working really hard during the week, and then going out and running these races, but also having either traveling a lot or having kids that they need to take care of. These are definitely another area that was definitely another area where we saw a lot of success selling our cars. We continue to see a lot of interest from them.
Great. So I know we've been talking a lot about success, but being an entrepreneur, there has to be a lot of difficulties and roadblocks as well. So when you come to those moments where you're facing some adversity, and you experience some form of failure, how do you stay focused on moving forward and making progress? And what can you learn, or what have you learned from those roadblocks that you faced, if
So,
any?
yeah, I've never faced challenges. It's just been a
Right.
smooth sailing. As an entrepreneur, I think you have to believe in what you're doing, and I believe that play out as a philosophy, play out as a game, um, that there's a spark, there's something within that philosophy and that concept. And as I've shared with a few anecdotes, I've seen it be successful in serendipitous ways, with people who otherwise maybe never would have had a positive experience with exercise. Maybe they would like sports or something growing up, but not, working out. And I believe that that's something that the world needs. So I'm motivated to keep pushing until I think I've exhausted all options as far as, can this business become a success? And so I think that's really what drives me to push past the obstacles. It's, you walk down, you start climbing up a tree, and then you realize you're climbing up the wrong tree. So, you have two options. You just get down to the bottom and sit down and say, okay, that was fun, but like it's over. Or you try climbing up other trees. I'm not sure why I'm using climbing up trees as an example, but I don't know. I guess we're talking about play out, and it sounds about
Exactly, it
right.
relates.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, what kid doesn't like to climb trees? Yeah. So I think the first thing is believing in myself and believing in what play out is and what it represents, and wanting to share it with the world. That's probably the thing that definitely have had a lot of hard times in the business, just not knowing what's going to be successful, not having an easy time reaching the markets, especially right now during COVID. I think what I'm really great at is being in front of people, sharing things, and it's a lot harder to do that at this time. So we've been making a lot of efforts to do digital marketing and X, Y, and Z, and it's not the same game, and still haven't figured out a way to make it as successful as it could be. But I think, in all those moments of doubt, what keeps me pushing is to say, I think there's something here. Like, I think that this game needs to be shared with the world. I don't know exactly how, and I don't know exactly how it can be a successful business, but I wanna at least push and try and see in all the ways I can until I'm sure that it is or it isn't a success. So that's probably the best way to answer that question for me. Without going into too much detail, the business has gone through some really interesting changes. We got into a whole phase where we were not only selling fitness cards, but we were also building obstacle courses for camps and schools and events. We got hired by the CrossFit Games, by CrossFit and Rogue Fitness in 2017 to build the obstacle course for the nationally televised ESPN Reebok CrossFit Games. And that was an epic experience, having 19 people working under me, building obstacle courses for possibly, the biggest name in the world of fitness. And that ended up being, though we were able to successfully build the obstacle course, it ended up being a very challenging experience. The company that had hired us, which was Rogue Fitness, changed the contract on us throughout halfway through the project because they felt that we were getting paid more than they wanted to pay us, and that led to me having to kind of cut corners with my own employees. And it was not an easy news to break to them that they had set aside, 3 weeks to work on this project, and all of a sudden they were heading home in a week. It was a very difficult experience. The fallout of that was also some people that I'd been trying to take onto my team I ended up in a lawsuit with over some of the proceeds from that project. So it was a very difficult obstacle, a very difficult roadblock for us. And I think it gave me a few lessons. One of them is that I need to manage people's expectations and be as honest as I possibly can, regardless of what is going on around me. Not let other people's lack of integrity affect my lack of integrity. And that means being strong and solid enough in myself that that I can stand and take losses and take hits, even if there might be kind of an easier way out that's not as honest and not as true. So if I could go back and do it again, I definitely would do it differently. But I came out of that with a lot more focus on my own integrity, as opposed to kind of being swept by the winds of what was going around me. Another thing about it is, when you're in a lawsuit, you are basically left up for the sharks. There's so little that you can do to control the situation, and that forced me to enter a new place of connection with my higher power in terms of giving over the reins to him, because there was nothing I could do at that point, and I had to just let go. And your mind, I don't know if there'll be anyone who's listening to this who's ever gone through a lawsuit, but if they have, then they know the feeling of just having no control over the outcomes, and feeling like anything could happen at any moment, and it could go not in your favor and be devastating. And to be able to, when you're feeling that tension, that stress, and that pain, you're able to just push it off and say, this is too big for me, but God, or whatever it is people believe in, please help me, and you take it, because I sure can't handle the burden all by myself.
Right.
And so that was a big experience for me as far as my own personal growth, was being able to learn how to let things go and turn it over to something bigger than myself.
Speaking of moving forward and looking forward with courage and integrity, um, especially during this time of COVID and at home fitness and the the way that we work out changing, what is next for Playout? I'm taking all that you've learned and um, all of the experience that you've gained over the past years. Where would you like Playout to go, and where do you see it going?
Yeah, great question. So there's a few things. First off, we just came out with Playout 2. Playout 2 takes all of the great things about the original game and basically just adds more. You have more exercises, upper core, lower body stretches. The idea there just being, I want to give people a toolbox for how to get fit anywhere, anytime for the rest of their lives. And now you just have a more complete toolbox, more muscles that you're going to be able to target with a different variety of exercises, and just more fun. People, to be honest, I actually haven't gotten sick of my game in all 8 years since I created it. Push-ups are still hard today, as they're as hard today as they were when I first started. Maybe not the first push-up. First push-up might be a little bit easier, but the 50th or the 60th is pretty hard. So it doesn't get old, but I think there's always something about adding in new variety that makes it fun. The game also has partner exercises. I would love to see, couples and parents and their kids and friends doing these exercises together. They're a blast and they're hard, and you have to it's like you have to figure out what you're supposed to do.
Right.
When you get it, it's a really fun experience. And then also cardio exercises. So if you can't get out and go for a run, these exercises give you a similar experience of pushing your heart rate up to the limit. So I'm excited about Playout 2. I'm also, the thing that I am really, really excited about, as far as future plans, is the app. We have an app. It's free right now on the Google Play and iOS App Store. But what we want to do with the app, what we've always wanted to do with the app, is make a multiplayer where you can connect with a friend online, just like you would in Words with Friends. And I send you a challenge, a fitness challenge. You complete the challenge, send me back a challenge. I get your score. I say, oh, she got me this. Allie got me this time, but I'm gonna get her this next challenge. And I put together the most devious list of exercises that I can, and I send it back your way. And let's say you're stronger than me in core, so maybe you do core on hard and I do core on medium, so I get like a little handicap that I still am able to keep up with you. So people of all different fitness levels and strengths can play together, um, socially connected with one another. Right at this time, people are wanting to connect with each other very, very much. To have that social aspect with fitness in an arcade style game, to me sounds so much fun. I would I exercise consistently and have my routine in place, but if I had this game, not only would I be doing my daily exercise routines, but also I'd be getting these little pings on my phone, like, oh, so and so just sent me a new workout. So
Right.
shouldn't call it a workout, by the way, Playout. Just sent me a new Playout challenge, and now I have to add a little bit more fitness in my day. 5 minutes before I go to bed, just to make sure I get back to that person on the game we're playing. That to me, you can hear it in my voice. Like, it's something I've always wanted to do since we first dreamed up the idea of Playout and what I think it has to offer. You take all the fun of the card game, you make it social, you have leaderboards, you have rewards for getting lots of points, you can unlock new exercises, you can create your own fitness routines, and you can send them out to other people. Um, yeah, that to me I think it's the future. And one other thing I'll speak to is just, you know, I I think this game is great for everyone. So two places we're really going to focus on just doubling down our efforts are we're coming back to PE. We want to make a new, we've actually developed a new professional development program to teach PE teachers how to use these games during this time of social distancing and remote learning, how they can develop effective fitness programs for their students using our games. And we're putting our content also online, so there'll be a digital library of all the exercises and all the cards that they'll have access to and that they can give their kids access to. So that's another area that we're excited about, kind of doubling down. We've done a lot for PE teachers in the past, and I think right now what we have to offer is especially unique and especially valuable for them. And then also looking to go to corporations. A lot of people who are working from home right now, or who travel a lot for their jobs, or whatever it is, for them to have access to a fun fitness program for them to do with themselves on their own or with their families. I think would be an amazing way to spread fitness in corporations, and thereby kind of let that disseminate from the parents to the kids
Mm-hmm.
to the family and hopefully to the whole world.
And there you have it, folks. From the beginnings of a college student looking to work out to now impacting people all over the globe. I mean, I am super excited to see where Playout is headed next, and can only imagine the great success that you will continue to achieve um, with everything that you have planned. I am looking forward to downloading the app myself and pinging some challenges, maybe getting a ping from you, and playing out. So thank you so much for sharing your story and speaking with me today. I'm sure our viewers very much appreciate what you've said and all you've done as well. And if you at home out there listening to this podcast would like to know more about Eddie or Playout or how to live a better and healthier life, or would like to purchase any of the mentioned items, be sure to visit playoutthegame.com or any of Playout's social media accounts at playoutthegame. And you can also look for the app on the App Store. And remember, why work out when you can play out? Thank you,
Why work
guys.
out when you can play out? There it is.
There it is.